I'm Andrea, and in this video, we're going to talk about Bo Bichette's arbitration trial. We're going to look at it from the team perspective, the player perspective, and then we're ultimately going to decide who we think should win. So just in case you haven't been following, Bo Bichette and the Blue Jays weren't able to agree on a salary for the 2023 season. Bichette wants $7.5 million and the Blue Jays want to offer him $5 million. And ultimately, when they go to trial, each side is going to present their case, but the arbiters can't pick a number in between the two. They have to pick either the $5 million or the $7.5 million. So let's see which one is more appropriate for Bichette. So the first thing you need to know is how to build an arbitration case, and there's a few things that go into that. The first is we're going to use basic stats. So nothing StatCast, no exit velos, no launch angles, nothing like that. It's going to be more like plate appearances, batting average, hits, home runs, stats like that. The next is we're going to use similar players or player comps to figure out where Bichette slots in the salary structure. Then we're going to look at Bichette's platform year performance. And the platform year is the year that is leading up to arbitration. So for Bichette, that's 2022. And since Bichette is first time eligible for arbitration, meaning this is the first time he's going through the process, we're going to also look at his career performance. So here's a list of players that I think are similar to Bichette. Ideally, it would only be shortstop since that's his position, but there were too few to make a fair comparison, so I added in other positions as well. And we're going to slot him in that mix based on three major factors. The first is time. So how often was he actually able to contribute to the team? And we're going to do that by looking at plate appearances. The next is counting stats. So what was his raw productivity in terms of hits and home runs? And then last is quality stats. So how was his consistency in overall performance? And we're going to look at batting average and OPS to figure that out. So we're going to start with the player perspective. So that's the top end of players on this list. I highlighted all the players that are above the midpoint, which was $6.25 million. So we're going to figure out where Bichette slots in these mix of five players. So let's start with Judge. Judge was one slot above Bichette on that table, making $8.5 million. So Bichette beats Judge in terms of time stats. Counting stats are a tie between Judge and Bichette, but Judge beats Bichette in terms of quality stats. And while Bichette has a slightly better average in the platform year and the career, Judge significantly outperforms Bichette in terms of OPS, which is why I have Judge beating him in the quality. And then I also added some information on all these slides based on awards that each player has won. So both of these are very accomplished players, Judge a little more so. Ultimately, I think Bichette should earn less than Judge. Now let's look at Alonso. Bichette beats Alonso in terms of time stats. Counting stats, I think, are a tie between Alonso and Bichette, and I feel the same way about the quality stats. Both, again, accomplished players, but the catch here is that Bichette played a premium position. So while the argument is close, Bichette was a shortstop and Alonso is a first baseman. So I do think Bichette should earn slightly more than Alonso with the position giving him the edge. So that slots Bichette slightly above Alonso but below Judge, which is ultimately where he placed himself at the $7.5 million. So now let's look at the team perspective. So now the players that are lit up are all the players below the midpoint of $6.25 million. So let's see if he actually slots at the team's proposed salary of $5 million. So let's start by looking at JP Crawford, who is at $4.85 million, one below the team. So to me, this is a clear victory. Bichette beats Crawford in terms of time stats, counting stats, and quality stats in the platform year and the career. And even though Crawford won a Gold Glove, Bichette also was very accomplished, so I think Bichette should earn more than Crawford. Now let's look at Trevor Story. Bichette beats Story in terms of time stats. Counting stats, that's a bit of a tie. The quality stats are also similar, but I think there's a slight edge to Story. Story clearly outperformed Bichette in terms of OPS during the platform year. And just like Bichette, Story's a shortstop, also very accomplished. I think Bichette should earn similarly to Story, but maybe Story has a slight edge. Maybe not. I could see an argument both ways. Now let's look at Correa. Time stats is a tie between Correa and Bichette. Bichette beats Correa in terms of the counting stats and the quality stats, but they do have a very similar career OPS, which is a big deal. As we look at the supplemental information about the awards, again, both very accomplished players. I feel the same way that I did about Story. I think Bichette should earn similarly to Correa. So that puts Bichette in the ballpark of $5 million. So this puts us in a bit of a pickle because we just came up with a strong argument for why Bichette should earn the $7.5 million and for why he should earn the $5 million. So how are we going to decide which one's more appropriate? Well, for me, this comes down to the midpoint. Since there is not a comp who earned $6.25 million, I think the best we can do is look at all the players in between the $5 million proposed salary and the $7.5 million proposed salary to come up with, a clear victory leaning towards either side. Franco first. Time stats is a tie between Franco and Bichette. Counting stats are similar, but Bichette has an edge due to the large gap in hits. Bichette clearly beats Franco in terms of quality stats. Let's look at the awards. Franco doesn't have any. And then on top of that, Bichette plays a premium position, shortstop, where Franco is a corner infielder. So I think this is a clear victory for Bichette. Now looking at Javi Baez. Bichette beats Baez in terms of time stats. Counting stats are similar. Bichette has an edge due to the large gaps in hits in the career, though. Quality stats are similar, but Bichette has an edge due to the large gap in OPS in his career. Baez is also a very accomplished player, just like Bichette, also a shortstop, but looking at the stats themselves, I think Bichette should earn more than Baez. So where does that leave us? That leaves us with Bichette beating every single comp between the $5 million and the $7.5 million. So I think Bichette has a very strong argument to win this arbitration case. Let me know what you think, and if you like this video, please subscribe and follow me on Twitter at ScoutGirlReport. Thanks for watching!